All right, hey everybody. Welcome to lesson 6. I'm sorry, this isn't lesson 6, is it? Or is it lesson 5? Yeah, I think it is lesson 6. Um, and we're going to talk a little bit during this lesson about birth control and I guess we call them pregnancy prevention methods. But I also want to tie back into sexually transmitted infections or disease and how these things can impact those as well. So I need to show you a couple of slides here that you're going to see so you guys can get an idea of what you're going to be looking for, as well as kind of how we're going to go about the homework or the assignment in this. So let's take a quick look at this slide here. So this is kind of our entry point here. You'll see the video that I'm currently creating. It's going to be sitting right in this zone. And you can see a whole bunch of different things in here that are different types of birth control methods or sexually transmitted infection prevention. You'll see it as STI sometimes you'll see it as STD. Important to understand they're very similar. I want to take you back here because this is kind of where we've been each time. One is that obviously the best way to prevent pregnancy, the best way to prevent disease is to abstain from having sex. Absolutely most important thing you will understand. And so when you think about the lesson and the material from this unit or from this lesson, you maybe won't use this for years. Or you maybe won't use this until you're married or at a later point in your life. And that's okay. And that's a good thing. But if you are choosing to be sexually active, I want to make sure that you have the right set of information. And this is really, really important, whether you're using it now or whether you're using it later on in life when it's something that maybe has a direct impact on your family as well. So obviously abstinence is still the best. You saw in the last lesson about sexually transmitted diseases or infections. So today we're going to tie in how do we prevent pregnancy and what can we do to prevent these infections. So a couple things to think about. First of all the methods we're going to talk about for the most part are either barrier or hormonal. Some people might put a couple of category or a couple of the devices into what we call an other category, which is fine. Understand the word barrier. Barrier is like a wall. Okay, so when we're talking about preventing something, this is actually separating the two fluids. Now, if we go back to our very first lesson on anatomy, one of the things we talked about was that for females, they have eggs, for male, they have sperm. Okay, in order to have a pregnancy, you got to get the two together. Pretty straightforward, right? So a barrier method very pointedly doesn't allow the two to get together. Okay, so it's obviously catching something or stopping something to make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, so the other good part about a barrier method is it's very good at preventing sexually transmitted infections. But I do need to be real with you. Barrier methods, and a lot of you might refer to the condom as the one barrier method. They're not great at preventing pregnancy. They're good at it if you know exactly how to use them. Okay, now if we go over to the hormonal side, please know this. There is not a single hormonal hormonal birth control method that prevents sexually transmitted infections. Not one. And so you need to know that up front. There's absolutely no way. They are absolutely amazing at preventing pregnancy if they are used correctly. And the correctly part is where the error comes in. And we as humans, we make mistakes. And so those are some things to think about when you're thinking about this. Now, like I said, there's an other category here. The other are things that don't really fit into the two, but we need to understand kind of what they do and how they work. So we'll be talking about those as we go. So some objectives, pretty straightforward. We want to understand the difference between a barrier and a hormonal. Pretty simple. We want to make sure that we understand how the different types of birth control work, understand the pros and cons of several different types. And then this is a really important piece. Where are the resources that you have in your community? I'm going to tell you, your number one resource should be your parents. Simple, open communication, have conversation. Okay. Now, some of you are a little hesitant about having that conversation. And if that's the case, there are a few other resources in our community that will give you the information you need. It's important that we understand that you live in Minnesota, and we'll do a little bit of research on how Minnesota looks at this. And then we just want to do a little piece on setting goals to delay sexual experimentation. Okay, so that's kind of our focus. Um, so that's kind of the idea. There's going to be two assignments. One of them is a Google form that asks you to dig into Minnesota's expectations, and the other one is going to be a Google sheet. It's going to look like a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet has um, some different things in it that will get you to research how the different methods work, what their effectiveness rates are, what they might look like, and a few other things. So again, if you have questions as we go through this, make sure you ask. This is one of those lessons where it's probably a little easier to do in person because we can have some great conversation. And so I will be opening up some conversation points later in the week that we can at least talk about some things if you have questions. Make sense? So I hope you are well. I hope you are taking care of yourself. I hope you're being safe. I hope you're washing your hands. And I'm excited about this lesson 6. We are at the end. This is the last lesson. So that's great. And after lesson 6, we're going to jump into our next unit. So the rest of the information is in the slides to follow. And I look forward to your work at the end. Take care, everybody.